I'm going to preview the Baylor at Montana women's soccer game, which will be played on August 24th at 2:30 p.m. Central Time or later, depending on the weather issues potentially. But I did check. There shouldn't be any bad weather. But there is also like a game before this. So maybe they don't start exactly right on time. And they could have water breaks if needed due to the weather. So I'm just saying the game will be on ESPN Plus. This is besides last stats. And Baylor's 0-2 on the year. Yeah, they tied with Denver. And you know what's crazy is? Denver was down a player from the 23rd minute on because of a red card. And it was a very creative play by Lauren Olmholt to get close to scoring, and then the defender just grabbed her jersey and tugged it back. And that was a clear and obvious red card when you go back and watch. And you know what's more insane? Baylor had 23 shots. Denver only had 5. In addition, Baylor had 10 corner kicks, including 8 in the second half. And Denver only had 1. Granted, I know Denver had a few dangerous opportunities to score, but they didn't. So that was a very disappointing result, to say the least. While Montana, this is like their second game of the year, was literally last game against Seattle, and it was a 1-1 tie. So both teams are coming off of ties here, and they're 1-0-1. Their only win was against Southern Utah, and that was a 3-0 win at home. So, yeah. But I will say, Baylor did have a few chances in that game to finish, and they just couldn't finish. And there was one time that they technically scored on, but they called it offside. And I didn't see an offside. But you gotta have to go back and watch and see what the explanation was. I just don't understand it. But anyway, time to move on. And this is like the second to last game I'm going to just do on last year's stats alone. And they actually return more production than Denver did. So this is a better team than Denver when you look on returning production wise. I'm just saying. And obviously they have more goals returning than A&M easily as well. So, yeah. And I'll put this in the description below, as well as the roster. I'm not going to go over every single player here. I'm not. And if you really are curious what formation, like how many defenders, forwards, midfielders they used in the game, both games, you could go to like their schedule and go to the box scores to see, and maybe like a few of them players that might not show what position. I don't know why, but you could just look at the roster and compare, see how many defenders, how many midfielders, how many forwards. Okay. So they do have 2 goalkeepers returning, and that's Bayless Flynn, number 00, 5'5", which is tall, sophomore, 5 goals and 62 saves last year. And granted, I don't know who's been starting, who's not, but in the last 2 games. Then Ashlyn Dvorak, Dvorak, number 1, 5'8" inches tall, junior, 5 goals allowed and 12 saves. Now, they do have Chloe Seelhoff, number 8, 5'5" midfielder that is a senior, 6 goals on 39 shots attempted and 1 assist. Maddie Dita, number 23, 5'7" midfielder that's a senior, 4 goals on 37 shots attempted and 1 assist. There's Kayla Rendon Bushmaker, number 7, 5'2" forward as a senior. 2 goals on 24 shots attempted and 3 assists. And the last notable player with like multiple assists or goals really is Carly Whalen, number 25, 5'3" midfielder as a sophomore. 1 goal and 9 shots attempted and 3 assists. There are like 2 other players that did score a goal last year, and that's Eliza Bentler, number 2, 5'7" forward as a senior. 1 goal and 2 shots attempted. And Lucy Rokos, number 12, 5'3" defender. That's a sophomore. 1 goal and 3 shots attempted. So yeah, there's like Ali Hendrickson, number 4, 5'8" midfielder. That's a sophomore. That's a senior. 20 shots attempted. But after that, it's like 8 shots attempted or less. I don't want to go every single player here. Y'all could just check that out. And I'm going to just say, you got to take all the frustration from last game and put it on Montana. Simply put, you had chances to beat Denver, and you couldn't. You got to learn from it. And I don't care how many shots or corner kicks you get, but you got to find a way to get the ball behind the net without being offside. Obviously, you cannot rely on officiating. You just can't. So you got to make plays to win. You got to make adjustments on the fly. And whatever you did right last game, bring it to this game. But whatever you did wrong last game, you got to correct for this game. Because I do think Montana's the better of the 2 opponents. And not only that, Montana's at home. They're not like a neutral site opponent here. So yeah, you got to try to not be intimidated by the crowd or the opposing players and all this. And obviously you do not want to have a red card, which means you're down the player for the rest of the game, or a foul or a handball in the box while you're on defense. But if that happens on the opponent, you got to take advantage of it. And of course, we all know if there's a handball or foul in the box, it's a penalty kick, and that's a guessing game. So yeah, you gotta, of course, keep like an eye on some of those key players and don't give them any clean looks for shots, or not many shots in general. Yeah, I know Denver got a few good shots, but they didn't convert at all. But still, you don't want to allow that to happen, especially those dangerous opportunities. Especially then. I would also say you don't want to turn the ball over on your own end as much, because that could lead them to more chances for the opposing team to score, obviously. And you need to find a way to break through that final third on offense. And of course, in the midfield, you got to be good in that area as well and win those 50-50 balls in the air. And of course, on set pieces, like a corner kick, you got to take, on defense, you got to be really good. On defense, of course, you don't want to foul, but still. Clear that ball out as soon as you can. Obviously, you want to force them into difficult shots as much as possible. And another thing, try not to turn the ball over when you're so close to scoring, if you can. And obviously on defense, if you get the ball back in your own end, try to start a counterattack. And obviously on on free kicks too, on defense, you got to be really good at that as well. You got to be good at those 1v1 situations. And on offense, you got to try to take advantage of the 1v1 situations, and you got to be a lot better on your free kick execution and corner kick execution. It doesn't matter how many times you have that, but if you can't convert to score, that doesn't really matter. And I'm going to just address this right now. And I know this is only the 3rd game of the year, but if you really want to make the NCAA tournament, you cannot just have a tie. You got to win some games. Let's start with this one. And I get they were good last year. I get it. But I'm just saying, and who knows about the injury situation for both these teams here too. I just need to address that. I know Blythe Obar didn't play for Baylor last game. It might be a load management because, she did tear her ACL, miss all of last year. Or she could be dinged up. I don't know. And honestly, Ava Verplanck hasn't still played since the first exhibition game and all this. And you gotta have your key contributor step up on offense and try to score for a change. And obviously you want to shut down the key players for them as much as you can. And I don't mind having more shots in general or corners, but you got to find a way to score. And you got to make adjustments on the fly. You got to. Not just from first half to second half, but during those halves as well. And you got to have a sense of urgency, because the last thing you want to do is go winless in this type of game here. This type of weekend here. Try to get a win. And obviously you do not want to lose either. Trust me, I know. But the point is, if you really want to think about postseason, you got to win games and not just tie. And I know Montana is going to have kind of the same mindset. They don't want to lose either, especially at home. But you got to try to take it to them early and often. And of course, you got to be resilient at times as well. So that's enough talking about this game. And like I said, I'm going to put the stats from last year in the description below for Montana, as well as the roster. So anyways, if you like this content, hit the like, subscribe, and see you guys later on the road at 800 subscribers. Of course, ultimate goal is 1,000 more. So my month, of course, like video, comment video really helps YouTube algorithm. Some more people see it, sharing the video does help as well. Some more people can watch. And if you're watching and not subscribe, hit subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well. And what's helpful is Baylor actually started practicing in the altitude since Tuesday. Yeah, I checked on social media. I saw a player on Instagram story posted that. So that's good to know. They're not going to be like totally unfamiliar. Besides like a game and one other practice, now they have multiple practices. So this is huge to get used to that type of altitude, because that is a real thing. Because Montana is obviously used to it. So let's go out there and go to work. And I'm sure for those seniors out there, they want to find a way to win the game. Besides all the other players on the team as well. I know they do.